Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Joslyn Young and I'm the CEO of the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, the region's leading voice for business and economic growth. And I want to thank you for attending today's event, Surrey and White Rock in Motion, supporting growth through transit investment. We're here to learn how major transit projects are transforming our region. Transit is a key driver of economic growth, connecting workers to jobs, customers with businesses, students with schools, and residents with necessary support services. Is this microphone okay for everyone? Yeah? I hear a little feedback, but that's okay. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Coquitlam, Kakite, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations. As well, I acknowledge the Inuit and Métis Nations people who live and work on these territories. Everyone, it's time to thank our sponsors. And for those of you who have attended some of our events, you know that I like to do this in a bit of a fun way so we don't get bored. So our community sponsors, we will start off with, I've got two of them. And when I say the name of one, you do one clap together in unison. I'll say the next one, you do another clap in unison. Okay, we're going to try it. Civic Hotel. Oh, good. And the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association. Well, very good. We're on it today. Now we have our pillar partners, and we'll also do the one clap method, and we'll see if you recognize their names. We have Aspira Retirement Living. Guys, we got to pick it up a little bit better. Cleveland Doan LLP. Good. Focus College. Oceana Park. TBMS Warehousing. Western Community College, and Canada's #1 group benefits plan, the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. Very good. Okay, that usually tricks everybody, that one. I'd also like to, welcome some special guests in the audience. So please wave, and everyone will do the one clap as well. We have Amna Shah, Parliamentary Secretary for Anti-Racism Initiative and MLA for Surrey City Centre. There she is. Her Worship, the Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke. Her Worship, the Mayor of White Rock, Megan Knight. City of Surrey Councillors Linda Annis and Mike Bose. That was tricky, I know, because two names. City of White Rock Councillor Susan Baines. And City of Delta Councillor Jennifer Johal. Very good. And we also have some of our board of directors of the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade here. We have Mr. Rory Morgan, the chair. Oh, I have to tell you where he's from. Rory Morgan, he's the chair, and he's with KSW Lawyers. There we go. I'll be like a conductor. I always thought that would be a cool job. Gurjinder Burji, Signature Real Estate Group. Harp Kayla Real Estate Group. Louise Tremblay, Brella Community Services Society. I know, it's a long one. We love you, Louise. Mike Spees, Ashdown Capital. And I think that's it. Very good. Okay. I'd also like to introduce our governors. These are individuals who have previously served as board chair, superstar volunteers, in other words. We have Dr. Greg Thomas, Steve Dooley, Archie Johnston, and James Stewart. They're all here to keep an eye on me. That's really why they're here. And our fellow Chamberland colleagues, we have Scott Wheatley, who is the Executive Director of the Cloverdale District Chamber of Commerce. And we have Richard Wisniewski, Executive Director of the Delta Chamber of Commerce. These are my friends in Chamberland who I call when things are not going right. We need to commiserate. I think things are okay today, guys. We're all right. Okay, the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade is an independent nonprofit organization and serves as the concierge of connections for our business communities, delivering a diversified service portfolio of business development, support for international trade, government advocacy, and workforce development. We help businesses grow and succeed. We connect people, offer vital resources, and actively push for policies that ensure Surrey and White Rock continue to be the leading cities to live, work, and invest. We are proud to be a powerful, unifying voice for businesses of all sizes and sectors across the region. And that was my little spiel in case you're not a member yet. Don't you feel left out? You need to become a member. It's a great place to be. Okay, it's now my honor to introduce your keynote speaker this afternoon who has filled this room. He is the CEO of TransLink, Metro Vancouver's award-winning transportation authority. Under his leadership, TransLink is shaping the future of transportation in Metro Vancouver. He has advanced the largest bus service expansion in more than a decade, championed bus rapid transit, and launched a groundbreaking real estate development program that unlocks new revenue sources to reinvest in transit. His vision is to put people at the heart of transit by getting the fundamentals right and continually modernizing. He sees public transit as a driver of economic growth and stronger, more connected communities. Everyone, please help me welcome Kevin Quinn. He was there. Has anyone seen Kevin? This is awkward. Kevin, hello.
Dad, wait up.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਨੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਕ ਅਨੁਵਾਦਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਨ ਚ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਚੰਗੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ
The next station is Scott Road. Exit here for the R6 Scott Road Rapid Bus.
Hey, good morning. Can I have a coffee, cream, and sugar, please?
Sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would recommend our famous ladoos.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I got that wine. Here I go, coming. I can't even stop. I'm a tour de force running.
Hey.
Should have known,
okay?
hey?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's clearly testing out the new high-speed
think-
transit route.
That all just happened. I'm exhausted by that. That's pretty tremendous. That was all produced in-house by our staff. Let's give them a round of applause. Right? They did a great job. I'm exhausted from that run, you know. I hope you enjoyed that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Really excited. We got a packed room, right? We got a packed room here because folks are so interested in transportation here in Surrey. So thank you for that very warm welcome. I'm so glad to be back here and talking to you all about great transportation investments we're making in Surrey and in White Rock. As you can see from the video, I just had to make a stop on the way here for a Ladue sweet treat on my commute, right? Which was delicious, by the way. And sweet treat aside, I think what really stands out to me is that even though we all got here today in very different ways, be it by SkyTrain, by bus, by car, the fact is that TransLink played a role in your journey here. We keep Metro Vancouver moving, connecting workers to jobs, students to education, customers to businesses, right? Transit really fuels economic growth in this area, and it keeps life affordable, and it opens doors to housing as well as to jobs. And we wouldn't have the system that we do today without the support from our partners, many of whom are in the room. And so I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke. Thank you so much for being here. Also have the Mayor of White Rock, Megan Knight. Thank you so much. We have Surrey councillors Mike Bowes and Linda Annis, who are here as well. White Rock councillor Susan Baines, and Amna Shah, MLA for Surrey City Centre, and Parliamentary Secretary for Anti-Racism Initiatives and Mental Health and Addictions. What a title, you know. And I thought I gave my staff long titles. That's a really good one. I want to thank you all for your commitment to investing in great transportation options and for building a more livable region and a more livable home for all of us. I also want to take a moment to thank Joslyn and the incredible team at the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, not only for your continued partnership, but for also putting on just a tremendous event today. Let's give them a big round of applause as well. So, as you saw in the video, our transit system is very much alive. It is growing, it is changing, and it is expanding to meet our customers' needs. And despite a very challenging economic environment, I'm really proud to say that we've continued to make some very meaningful progress. To meet growing demand, we've increased service levels here locally by 33% in just the past 5 years. That is far more than anywhere else in this region. That includes increases on some of Surrey and White Rock's busiest routes, like the R1 Rapid Bus along King George Boulevard, the 321 to White Rock, and the 335 serving Newton. And since the last time I spoke with you all, we also introduced a brand new rapid bus, the R6 on Scott Road, and more than 16,000 riders use this route every weekday, and they're traveling about 10% faster than regular bus service. Thanks to these targeted investments, weekday overcrowding in this part of the region has dropped by 38%. That's what happens when you add service where it's needed the most. Safety is one of the top priorities for our customers as well, and for some concerns and perceptions around safety, that can be a real deciding factor for folks around whether they choose to use transit. The fact is, we want everyone to feel safe on our system. It is one of our core priorities. And we've taken sustained, deliberate action to continue to improve safety, including supporting customers across the system with increased staff presence. We've added improved features at a number of transit stops and stations, most recently adding lighting at key bus stops. We've also had several campaigns to help ensure everyone using the system knows about the ways that they can get help, like our 877777 text line. And while crime on transit has risen in other cities across the country, there's been some recent articles about this, Statistics Canada data shows that we are the only major Canadian transit system that has seen a decline in crime over the past 5 years. That is something we're very proud of. But at the end of the day, it's about supporting people wherever and however they move through the region. And delivering for customers, that doesn't stop on buses, trains, or at stations. Now, you may not realize it, but TransLink is actually responsible for far more than just transit. We also help ensure the region's road and bridge networks move smoothly and move efficiently. Between 2020 and 2025, TransLink has committed nearly $150 million across Surrey and White Rock to improve roads, sidewalks, and bike lanes. This funding helps keep goods and communities moving. The 2023 Nickel River Bridge Replacement Project and more recent twinning of the bridge, that's a great example of this funding in action. Because with more than 30,000 daily trips, it improves traffic flow and goods movement, plus introduced multi-use paths to include safer walking and cycling options for folks. In White Rock, TransLink contributed over $132,000 towards improving accessibility around Johnston Road and over $144,000 towards improvements in McCaud Park. These small improvements make a big difference, and they help ensure safe access to business, homes, parks, and services on the street. And more recently, TransLink contributed almost $800,000 for the construction of two-way bike lanes on Buena Vista Avenue. Now, these accomplishments, they've only been possible because of the hard work and the dedication of so many who came together to deliver for our customers and secure the 2025 investment plan, our biggest achievement of this past year. So let me talk about this investment plan for a bit, because I know it might sound a little odd to say that a plan was one of our biggest milestones last year, but I want you to hear me out on this. Sorry, Sarah. Sarah's giving me a look. Our vice president of planning is like, Kevin, why would you say that? The fact is that this plan gave our system some breathing room. It let us grow. It let us ease overcrowding and really focus on what riders really care about. And beyond keeping me up at night, it also put us on very solid financial footing once again. Over the past few years, you've probably heard us raising the alarm bells about our funding gap. The fact is, put simply, that revenues haven't kept up with the funding needed to maintain and grow the system. A big reason for this has been the shift to more electric and more fuel-efficient vehicles. That's been driving down the motor vehicle fuel taxes revenues that we receive. Now, without this plan, we'd be sitting here in this room having a very different conversation today about service cuts that would slow down everything that makes this region tick. Now, instead, what's great is we're able to move forward, ensuring people can get to work and goods and services can flow easily. Our Mayor's Council and the province recognize the important role that transportation plays in moving this region. It was because of their support, alongside our own $90 million that we identified in cost savings, that our operations are fully funded through 2027 and our funding gap is cut nearly by half. Now, I want to be clear at the same time, there is still a lot more work ahead of us, a lot more work to close that gap fully and maintain long-term stability. But this plan ensures that our system is more resilient for the years ahead, and that's important. I want to note that none of this happened by chance, right? It took extraordinary collaboration across regional and provincial partners to get to this point, really all united around a very simple truth. And that truth is that transit is economic infrastructure. It doesn't just move people, right? It powers opportunity, it lowers costs, it gets students to schools, it connects people to jobs. It is not optional, right? It keeps Surrey and it keeps White Rock and it keeps the whole region moving forward. But I have to say, the road here, it hasn't been easy. All of us in this room know that the pressures facing our communities, they are very real and they are growing. With record-setting population growth in the past 5 years, Metro Vancouver is now home to 3 million people. And as you all know, much of that growth is happening right here. And these are your employees, your customers, your suppliers. And 1/3 of them rely on transit. But at peak times, persistent overcrowding means that people who rely on us, they're not getting the service that they need. At the same time, congestion, that's worsening. Affordability continues to be a challenge, and the cost of doing business, it just keeps rising across the board. And I know that these issues, they affect all of us in this room, and that's why our investment takes a very tactical approach to these problems, using transit as a very powerful economic driver to address these challenges head on. So let me walk you through how. So first and foremost, the plan unlocks the largest bus service expansion since 2018. Every trip means someone gets to class on time. It means someone reaches a job site. Maybe they catch a concert, right? And this expansion provides relief from overcrowding on up to 50 of the region's busiest routes, while also improving access to post-secondary institutions and industrial areas that we know need service. Half of the routes getting increases are right here in Surrey, like the 301 between Newton and Brighouse Station, and the 342 between Cloverdale and the Langley Event Center. What does that mean? Well, that means earlier starts. That means later service in the evening. That means more frequent service at very busy times of day. But what I'm really proud of, and what I think is especially amazing, is how fast we can move when that funding does land, going from plan to pavement in record speed. About 1/3 of these increases approved in this plan, they are already out there on the road. We've already moved on those. And that includes increased service on the 321 between White Rock and Surrey Central Station to reduce wait times and support ridership growth, all before delivering bus rapid transit. We're also strengthening service for underserved areas that we know have needed transit for quite some time. Just last week, we added more frequent service to the 375 between Guildford and South White Rock. We're also adding 40 new and improved routes reaching neighborhoods that, quite honestly, they've been off the transit map until now. And what this means is more service to growing areas like South Newton, as well as across access to rapidly growing job hubs like Campbell Heights in Surrey, in Gloucester, in Langley, and Tilbury, and Delta. The new Campbell Heights route, which I know some folks are in this room are very excited to hear about, will run between White Rock Center and Willowbrook via 192nd Street, improving access to major employment areas. That has been needed. We're looking to target that for launch in 2027. With hundreds of thousands of people commuting to industrial areas every day, these new routes connect the folks who build, who ship, who stock everything that keeps our daily life buzzing from homes to hockey gear, right? In addition to expanding bus service across the region, our investment plan also advances work to bring bus rapid transit, or BRT, to your community. Now, for those that don't know, bus rapid transit is a fast, frequent, reliable form of rapid transit that runs in dedicated lanes. It implements stations that are weather protected and includes real-time information and all-door boarding and modern vehicles that support really safe, really efficient journeys. And in fact, it delivers many of the same benefits that people expect from rail, but it can be done much sooner and at a much lower cost. Along King George Boulevard, BRT will finally bring rapid transit to a corridor that has needed it for years. This is a 19-kilometer route with 12 stations that will connect Surrey Central, Newton, and Semiahmoo Town Center, bringing a rapid transit connection to White Rock. This corridor already sees more than 25,000 transit trips every weekday, and demand continues to grow. By 2035, King George BRT is expected to be the busiest bus route in Surrey and one of the top busiest bus routes in all of Metro Vancouver. Now, look, I know that rapid transit on this corridor has been a hot topic for many, many years. And I want to recognize how frustrating it's got to be for communities to see plans change and to see timelines slip. And that's why my focus right now, our TransLink team's focus right now, is on certainty and is on delivery. That's why I know that BRT is the right solution for this area. At its core, bus rapid transit is really about changing what's possible on King George Boulevard, really turning it into a corridor where taking transit feels like the obvious, the easy alternative to driving, and that starts with speed. Because with dedicated bus lanes, BRT trips will be up to 30% faster than today's local buses, and during peak hours, it'll be as fast or faster than driving. With BRT, travel from Newton to Surrey Central will take under 15 minutes during rush hour. That's pretty fast. Second, frequency. Buses will arrive every 5 minutes during peak periods. And that means that folks don't need to plan around a schedule. That's freedom, right? And third, reliability and capacity. Dedicated travel lanes mean consistent times, even when traffic is heavy. And high-capacity buses will provide more room on board and less crowding, making journeys so much more comfortable. Just as importantly, BRT is cost-effective. It is quick to deliver. It doesn't require tracks, doesn't require guideways, it doesn't require us purchasing new trains. It uses proven technology on existing streets. And that means that it can be delivered in as little as 3 years from when we receive funding for construction. In contrast, I think we recognize that rail projects, they can be a little pricey. They can often cost billions. They can take much longer to build. And they can face significant construction and operational challenges, similar to what's happening right now in Toronto with the Finch and Eglinton LRT projects, if you've been following those. BRT is scalable, though, and it's ready to grow with Surrey and with White Rock. And it allows us to address overcrowding now, deliver rapid transit sooner. The fact is it offers more for less. And we, for our part, are ready to deliver. We have strong ridership demand and we have regional support, and it is a solid solution. King George Boulevard BRT will deliver fast, frequent, and reliable transit that communities in Surrey and White Rock have been waiting for. I want to take this opportunity then, and I'm so excited to make a bit of an announcement today, that today really marks a major step forward, bringing bus rapid transit one step closer to wheels on the ground. And so starting today through February 8th, we are launching public engagement and asking people from across the region to weigh in on updated designs for 2 major BRT corridors. The King George Boulevard BRT and the Langley to Haney Place BRT, which starts at Willowbrook and connects all the way to Maple Ridge. We're wanting to engage the public on that and get their thoughts. And what we hear over the next few weeks will really help to shape that corridor design for both projects. This feedback is so critical because it will help make BRT work for the communities that it serves. And I couldn't think of a better day or a more perfect event in this room to share this with all of you, the people who really do so much to help shape Surrey and White Rock and the region's economy. Because look, the fact is that the transportation choices that we make now, that will define what growth looks like here, where people can live, how they get to jobs, how businesses attract workers, and how communities stay connected. So my ask today is, look, please don't let this moment pass. If you use these routes, if your employees or your customers use these routes, this is your time to tell us what you need, what works, and quite frankly, what doesn't. The more voices we hear, the better we can design something that works for the people who will use it every day. It's a huge step for us. So you can take the survey and find information about open houses by scanning the QR code or visiting translink.ca/BRT. We've been waiting for that announcement for a while, so I was really excited about that. Yeah. In addition to exciting progress on BRT, there's a lot more happening, right? We're also preparing to expand SkyTrain by a whopping 27%. And that includes the long-anticipated Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension of the Expo line. This 16-kilometer addition to SkyTrain is anticipated to serve 80,000 people daily by 2050 and make more than 20,000 jobs accessible by transit. The province, as you're all experiencing, as I'm experiencing, has started major construction on this project, started that late last year and is anticipating opening in 2029. And for those who travel frequently along Fraser Highway, I feel like I should stop talking there and leave the room. You'll know it's very hard to miss, right? You can see SkyTrain guideway foundations and columns going in, as well as work on all 8 station sites. And while the province is working on the construction and delivery of the extension, we've got our own work to do in getting ready for operations. And so preparations for expansion, a lot's happening behind the scenes. There's a lot that isn't happening behind the scenes. And some of you may have already had the chance to ride our next generation of SkyTrains, the Mark V SkyTrain. And with 25% more capacity, these Canadian-made trains are alleviating overcrowding and making room for more people to connect to the region on SkyTrain in anticipation of this expansion. Now, while, again, most folks might just think of us as the region's public transit provider, we also support goods movement. We play a really key role in maintaining trucking routes and bridges that connect our ports, that connect our industrial areas, and connect our business districts. And the fact is that what we help to maintain is trade-enabling infrastructure, and that's critical in keeping our region so competitive. But that's why it's so important to improve conditions as well along these major arteries, and the 2025 investment plan did that by increasing road funding to municipalities by 70%. And in Surrey and White Rock, this looks like more than $10 million in funding for street upgrades in 2026. These investments, alongside new, simplified trucking standards, ensure more reliable cargo movement through the Lower Mainland. And look, with growing uncertainty around the economic impact of things like tariffs, strengthening the local movement of goods just makes good sense, right? It directly benefits consumers and businesses and sustains a strong local economy here at home. All the investments that I've outlined this afternoon, service expansion, rapid transit, new SkyTrains, road improvements, I think it's so important to remember these aren't just projects, right? This is how we keep life moving. And I think the results are also really clear. 20 years ago, we were trailing behind when it came to transit ridership per capita among other major Canadian cities. But over the past 2 decades, we have successfully transformed the way that this region moves. And today, we have the second highest ridership per capita in Canada, ahead of the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. Look, people here, they're choosing transit not because they have to, but because it's a reliable, convenient, and affordable option for them. But I gotta say, I think the reason for this is actually pretty simple. We've treated transit as essential economic infrastructure and not as an afterthought. And the results really show. Public transit isn't just about getting from A to B, though. It is a major engine for jobs, for productivity, and for economic growth. And thanks to very strategic investments, people can count on the system that we have today. It is reliable, it is safe, it is affordable. In my opinion, it is the best deal in town. And whether you take transit or not, look, here is why this matters for those of you in the room. Investing in transit isn't just good for riders, it is good for business. It expands your talent pool, it keeps goods and people moving, and it helps every sector, from retail to tech. It gets people where they need to go. Every trip on our system adds up to a stronger local economy. On screen, you can see that the King George Boulevard BRT in Surrey will open up access to an additional 60,000 jobs within walking distance of the service. That's incredible. And that is just one rapid transit corridor. Imagine the opportunities that we could unlock with an entire expanded network. Delivering transit investments not only improves access to services and destinations for users, but it also makes it easier for drivers too. Drivers also see a lot of benefits from transit investment because, look, less cars on the road, that means less congestion. That means more reliable travel times. That means improved road safety. And so our vision for the future of transit also includes a reduction in road congestion by 20% by 2050, ensuring that road users also get time back in their days too. Now, not only is this more time back in your day, but it also means that the more than $100 billion in goods that move through this region annually can get to their destination on time too, keeping business moving. As Surrey, as White Rock, as the region continues to grow, transit investment is going to help us maintain real regional competitiveness. while increasing access and reducing congestion. And even though the rate of growth that we've seen in the past few years, that may not continue at exactly the same pace, but it is still anticipated that in the next 20 years, we will see another 1 million residents relocate to the Lower Mainland. That is a lot of people. And we need to be able to keep up with the growth that's here. We need to keep up with that growth that is still to come. And the reality is that we can't just keep adding roads. The space isn't there for it. And why would we, when rapid transit can carry 15 times more people than a single lane of traffic? I love this image. That's always a good one. I've spoken, as the transit guy, of course I love that image. You know, I've spoken a lot today about the exciting projects ahead of us, right? BRT is coming, starting that engagement, SkyTrain expansion, service to new areas. All of these things are so needed. And with that, it's easy sometimes to only see the construction, to see buses, to see kilometers of track. But let's be clear that what we are actually building is opportunity. Every new service hour is a gateway for a business to find its next great hire. Every kilometer of bus rapid transit, that's a bridge connecting a family to a more affordable home. And every new station is a magnet for local investment, transforming street corners into thriving destinations for commerce and for culture. As I shared with you today, the pace of this transformation, that is only going to accelerate. And in the south of Fraser region, that's going to continue to be a critical economic engine that fuels the entire province. But infrastructure alone, look, that doesn't create a community. People do, right? And it's each and every one of you in this room who will help turn these transit corridors into such vibrant hubs of innovation and business. And so my take is that, look, we have to keep investing with intention. Not just build a network that moves people, but build a region to create that opportunity. And in doing so, really recognizing that transit is the solution. Smart transportation investments are the solution to growing our economy and unlocking housing and unlocking that affordability. So for our part, the path forward is pretty clear. We have a lot of momentum on our side. We've got a lot going on. And my take, is that absolutely the best is yet to come for Surrey and for White Rock. Thank you so much. I look forward to sitting and taking some Q&A. Thanks so much. You sit over here now.
You know what? I can sit over here too.
Okay, you go wherever you want.
No, this is good. I was going to say, please have a seat, and now you're already doing it. So thank you so much for that engaging presentation. You're so excited about transit.
I'm very excited. We have so much going on. I am very excited about it.
It's good. It's good. It's nice for me to meet another leader who's so positive that their staff are probably like, okay, so happy and positive all the time. We don't know. No, we're going to do it.
Right. We got to do it. Got to get it done.
So I'm going to open up with some questions, but the audience is also allowed to ask questions. We have a microphone right here, and so when you do come up to the mic, I ask that you state your name, your company, and then ask your question. And of course, we ask that your questions be brief and respectful. And I'll get us started. So I like to start a lot of our events off with our keynote speakers and ask them a question that helps the audience get to know you as a person.
Oh dear.
So my question to you, Kevin, is what is your origin story?
That's a question. Origin story. So look, my background is in planning, right? I have a background in planning and started my career doing community planning in really tough communities in East Baltimore. So I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., and did a lot of community planning in Baltimore for a number of years, really kind of falling into transit. And I really began my career actually in very rural transit, so systems with 10 or 15 buses where maintenance is done by like out of a guy's garage, right? Like it's not these big systems. And so that was really impactful for me, and seeing how these small systems impact people's lives. I ended up as the director of planning at the Maryland Transit Administration, and then was the CEO there for a number of years, really focusing on a lot of improvements, specifically around technology and real time, and that was a big passion of mine. A lot of the customer experience kind of improvements that you see, and then this opportunity came up at TransLink, and TransLink is really known, and Metro Vancouver is really known. Really throughout North America as having just an amazing transit system. And so, oh my gosh, the opportunity, I jumped at it, the opportunity to come and lead such an amazing system in such a dynamic and growing region. And so I've been here for almost 5 years now. My wife is a therapist, a family counselor. I will say that comes in handy. My kids are into rock climbing. I'm at the Hive here in Surrey now, like every other day. It feels like I have my own membership there now. It's been such a great landing here, and couldn't be more grateful and more thankful to be here.
Well, that's a very good story, and welcome to Canada. Congratulations on making the right choice.
I think it was the right choice. I have to be honest with you. It's nice to be on this side of the border.
You're fitting in well. My first question for you is, it must be very difficult to balance priorities. So with Surrey and White Rock's rapid growth, how is TransLink able to adapt and prioritize the changing route demands and key corridors? How does that work? Because, of course, all of us think that our neighborhoods should be prioritized.
Well, we do, and we prioritize these neighborhoods first.
Great.
So, look, I think for our part, let's see, a few things. I think for us, a lot of it starts with data and analysis of data. We have a wealth of data to draw from. If you go back maybe we'll take a step back to the pandemic, and when the pandemic hit this region, our ridership was booming. TransLink had, in 2019, received an award for the best transit system in North America. It's a really big deal, and it's because ridership was just off the charts. And then something called COVID hits, right? The pandemic hits and ridership drops to about 14% of normal levels. Has contributed to some of the funding issues that we still have today. And so over the past couple of years, we've seen ridership recover. We are leaders in ridership recovery following the pandemic. And while our ridership recovery across the region hovers around 91%, in Surrey and in White Rock, it's more like 120 and 130%. It has come back, ridership has come back in this area stronger by far, by leaps and bounds, more than anywhere else in the region. And so I think for our part, throughout the pandemic, we've had to adjust to that. So, these normal service changes that we do 4 times a year had to really be rethought and be much more done on a more micro community level. So we really focused a lot on Surrey and White Rock making those changes. And so, you heard the beginning of my presentation, we've increased service as a result of the way that this area has come back by 33%. We've increased service a lot. We've reduced overcrowding by increasing that service. We've put in $150 million in roads investment, right? Like all of this has been so important to us as we've seen the area south of the Fraser come back so very strong. I think that's also led us to these investments that we talked about today, King George Boulevard, BRT, right? That's in response to this very strong surge in ridership that we're seeing. And with Surrey-Langley SkyTrain going in as well, like there's a lot of investments that are being made. Again, that's in a direct result to that data that we've seen and that ridership growth that we're seeing really in this area.
So what's the difference between the rapid bus services like the R1, R6, and a BRT?
Yeah.
What?
This is a great question, right?
Because it seems the same. So tell me.
I hear you. Maybe we haven't done ourselves any favors with our marketing of this, calling it, rapid bus versus bus rapid transit, right? I get it. I'll be the first to admit that. So, look, we have the R1 and the R6 rapid buses today. I think one way to think about it is some of the infrastructure. So those rapid buses, they have some dedicated lanes. BRT will have more than that, will be mostly dedicated lanes, right? So that's one way to think about it in terms of the transit priority measures that we have. Same thing with signal priority and queue jumps, right? There are some of that. There's some of that on the rapid buses today. There will be significantly more on BRT. You know, another big difference that I think is important to highlight is that, you know, rapid bus, like the rest of our bus system, has bus shelters, and the rapid bus has bus shelters that also have real-time signage. BRT is really more of a station concept. You can think of it more like a rail station. And look, we're not inventing this. I mean, BRT, many of you in this room, let's do a little audience participation. How many of you have been on BRT like in other countries, in other parts of Canada and other countries, right? Yeah, this is used elsewhere. This is used in so many places around the world. Look, Metro Vancouver loves SkyTrain and has invested in SkyTrain for quite some time. Don't get me wrong, I love SkyTrain. I think it's great. I took it here today. But BRT has a place too. And BRT can be done for a fraction of the cost and so much faster, while also providing that reliable service, those transit priority measures, great stations that look more like rail stations, and service that's coming every 5 minutes, right? That's like a SkyTrain. What I just described to you is like a SkyTrain on rubber tires. And that's how some people think of BRT, right? And that's how it's been implemented in other countries around the world. So that's really kind of what we see as the difference between the two.
Okay, that makes sense to me now. So TransLink once had LRT planned for Surrey instead of BRT.
I've heard this.
And so what have you learned from, you know, you touched on it a little bit, and I have a rail background too, so I've got some opinions there. Yeah. You know, our organization really advocated for LRT because we want that, the people being able to go into the businesses along the line really easily and keep those businesses operating. And there was a fear that we would lose some of that. So LRT instead of BRT, what are the pros and cons? And obviously, we know which one you prefer.
Yeah, sure. So look, you know, on the BRT side of things, I think for us it comes down to cost and down to schedule. I mean, we can do it for a fraction of the cost of light rail, and we can do it much faster. We don't have to buy rail cars. We don't have to buy land for a new maintenance facility for vehicles that we don't maintain today, right? Like we don't have light rail here in this region. It's not like we can connect it to SkyTrain. It's a different system entirely. And that's a new investment. That's a new level of investment for us. So I think, you know, for our part, BRT is something, you know, this area is growing so fast. And it needs rapid transit now. It needs rapid transit yesterday, right? And BRT is what's going to get you that rapid transit solution the fastest. That's it. It's going to get you that solution the fastest. And so we want to bring that solution to Surrey and to White Rock and enable people to have that rapid transit connection. I'll also just note, you know, as I noted in my remarks, you know, there have been some not great stories coming out of the light rail lines at the Finch and Eglinton light rail lines that are tremendously over budget, schedules are being broken daily. Just it's a challenging environment, and I'll just say, like with things like tariffs, that economic environment and the costing of these projects can be quite variable. Maybe many of you are seeing that in your businesses today. I'm sure you are. It's no different, and this would be introducing a brand new technology to this region that has never been used before. So I think for our part, BRT we feel brings that service as fast as possible to an area that needs it.
Count me in for the first ride on the BRT.
Yes,
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question at the microphone. Remember to introduce yourself, who you're with, your question.
Hello. First of all, thank you for the event and Happy New Year. My name is Na-Yoon Kim, and I don't have a company yet since I'm just a student that you mentioned, also a job seeker. So if anyone here wants to be my company, I'd gladly take it. So I live in Coquitlam, and I'm a student from Simon Fraser University, which means that I commute 3 hours overall daily, almost daily, to the Burnaby campus and also the Surrey campus near this building. And they do not, like, for example, with a car from Coquitlam to the Burnaby campus and Coquitlam to Surrey campus, it is only 5 minutes difference in driving, 25 minutes and 30 minutes. However, when it comes to TransLink to the Coquitlam to Burnaby campus, it takes only about an hour, while it takes about an hour and 30 minutes to Surrey campus. Why it has been increasing is that in my first year, the Surrey and Langley expansion took place. While I'm really excited about the expansion, and I know it is an amazing opportunity for the economy at Surrey. However, then in my first year, it was like 6 minutes expo line from lobby or production to waterfront and the other way around. Now it got changed to 12 minutes because of the expansion. And it doesn't not only add 6 minutes to my commute time, it adds 30 minutes to my commute time. So I was wondering, in case of the expansion, how are you planning to accommodate students and job seekers traveling to Surrey better in terms of the expansion?
Sure, that's a fantastic question. I noted with this investment plan, we're implementing a pretty significant expansion to bus service. And so part of that is buses that run more frequent, buses that run later at night, earlier in the morning, and even some new routes that we'd like to put in place. Look, the bus system that we have today, a lot of it focuses on and we've been changing this, and it's been good, but for years there's a lot of bringing people down to city centers, and what we're really recognizing is there's so many more commutes that are happening now from one municipality to another, so from Coquitlam to Surrey. So we know that that's something that's needed for some time. And so we want to fund that kind of thing. For our part, you raise a good point in that we're in a competitive environment, right? Like transit trips are competing against someone driving, right? And we've got to make those trips more competitive. I think for our part, putting in place these BRTs, putting in place, bus service that's faster, that has actual transit priority, that is communicating with traffic signals, right, to shorten those green lights, red lights, and lengthen green lights so that buses can get through faster. All of those are going to contribute to a faster travel time. And I think your point is well taken. We have a lot of work to do to make that more competitive. For our part, we are constantly doing ridership surveys to understand those trips that are needed, the Coquitlam up to SFU on Burnaby Mountain. We hope to one day perhaps build a gondola. We'll see if that happens one day. That would significantly reduce your commute time. We've completed the business casing for that. We're at a position where if we had some funding, we'd get your gondola up tomorrow. I shouldn't say that out loud. But that's an important project that we have on the books that would do exactly what you're getting at. Because right now, that travel time is so long. And so we've got to make those trips faster for folks. I think this investment plan is a great first step towards doing that.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I forgot to mention, I'm a big fan of UPass, so thank you so much for that.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thanks.
Great. We have another question.
Hi there, good morning. So I'm Denise, I'm from KPU. I'm a post-bac supply chain management student.
Great.
My question is for the increasing material and labor costs today, during this major infrastructure of TransLink, are you also seeing increased fare rates in the future?
Yeah. So the history of our fares is interesting. We are putting in place our investment plan lays out a 5% fare increase that would start this July. I think it's important to look back though at the history of fare increases over the past few years. So in 2020, because of the pandemic, we actually had a 0% fare increase. We didn't increase fares at all. And then in 2021 through 2024, we did a 2% fare increase each year. So over a 5-year period, we increased fares 8%. So think about labor rates and inflation rates during the pandemic and over a 5-year period. I promise you it was not 8%, right? It was a number probably double that, maybe up to 20%. So, our fares have been kept at or below the rate of inflation for a number of years. And so as revenues have gone up, or as expenses have gone up, the fact is our revenues really haven't kept up. So fares are part of that. We really do fall, our funding model is quite diverse, and we follow a real model of beneficiaries of the system paying for the system. So that includes transit riders, that includes property owners. That includes drivers, cars who benefit from less congestion because people are taking transit. So that's a long way and a bit of a long-winded way of answering your question that, we are looking at a 5% increase this year. We are looking at about a 2% fare increases following years. But those fares contribute, I think, around $800 million every year to funding this transit system. It's such an important piece of the puzzle. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we have another question. I love it.
How's it going? Good morning. My name is Surrey. I'm just EXP Realty. I just had a question about, what type of fuel are you guys going to be using for these BRTs? Is it going to be mostly diesel? I think those buses are diesel. Is it going to be later down the line where you guys are going to be thinking of converting them to electrical? Because at the end of the day, if they're running a lot, right, that just increases the carbon and all that pollution-wise, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think as of now, we have yet to sort of nail this one down. This is something that'd be good to hear from the community about. The bulk of our fleet is a hybrid diesel fleet. To be clear, those hybrid diesel buses produce around 90% less carbon emissions than a normal diesel bus. So there's a significant increase, and so a good portion of our fleet is changing over to that hybrid diesel. We are also investing in battery electric buses. In the city of Vancouver, we have the Marpole Transit Center that's under construction right now. That's about a 350 bus facility for battery electric buses. We're continuing to invest also in our electric trolley fleet. We have the second largest electric trolley fleet in North America, right behind San Francisco. We're also investing in compressed natural gas and renewable natural gas buses. Those are really important to us as well. A lot of those run out of our POCO facility. So all of those taken together and some of the work at Surrey Transit Center as well, it's quite a diverse fleet. I think as it relates to BRT, we've got some fleet purchases to do to really figure out kind of where that fits in our fleet transition.
For the electric trolleys,
Yeah.
right? I know a lot of Vancouver mostly just uses that. Would that be just a really big cost if that was split to be the BRT?
We'd have to evaluate that as an option. Yeah. It's certainly, I think as far as fleet type, we want to consider all options. We've heard from a lot of folks a desire to have, those quiet electric buses. Yeah. There's also a desire to have rapid transit as soon as possible. And so, that operating service is really the benefit. I mean, look, believe me, I'm all about lowering GHGs and lowering emissions. I think that is so important to our region. I want to note that TransLink's contribution through our buses to local greenhouse gas emissions is less than 1% of the region's greenhouse gases. Close to 40 or 50% come from single occupancy vehicles, right? So the key, what really benefits the regions from a greenhouse gas perspective is service. The more service that we have out there is what gets people out of cars. It's cars that are the #1 producer of greenhouse gas emissions in this region.
And when it comes to transportation, whether it's your supply chain, your ships, your rail, your buses, your trucks, all of it, sometimes it is a good idea to wait to see what the most popular means of power is and what is actually going to be available at a good cost in the system, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a complicated issue for sure. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks.
See, Mo, you have to wait and come back. I run a tight ship. Mo comes behind you. No. Off we go. You can stand behind Mo, come and go again. This is how we roll.
My name is Mona Arora. I'm also the EXP.
Mona, can you put the microphone down? He was tall. Yeah. There we go.
My name is Mona. Of course, I'm with the EXP as well. The question is in regards to, we're going to be hosting the biggest event ever again, which is, we've seen the effects of what happened when we did the Olympics, Winter Olympics, and now we have FIFA coming up. FIFA, with all of these things, it always shakens up the budgets and the planning and whatnot. So my question is, with the World coming to Vancouver later this year, what is the plan with cost efficiency, budgeting, and one legacy, watching what you've created there, one legacy improvement to our transit system that you hope will remain long after the international crowds have gone?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're super excited for the FIFA World Cup to come to this region. It's such an opportunity to kind of to be honest, I'm looking at that. It's an opportunity to show off, right? To show off a great region and a great transit system. My take. Part of this is operations. We've got to get BC Place cleared. We got to get our SkyTrain platforms cleared quickly. We had some really good experience when we hosted the last of the Taylor Swift concerts. You might remember that. That was a lot of fun. And believe me, we looked at that as, this is a preview of what the FIFA World Cup is going to look like. We learned a lot. The crowds could be a little different, I'll say. We'll see. So part of this is an operations piece. We also are looking at the PNE, which will have a fan fest, and so we will have to run a significant number of shuttles to the PNE to accommodate those crowds. But we also know that around the region, a lot of municipalities are going to have their own viewing parties and watch parties, and we've got to amp up service, as Mayor Locke is like, yeah, you better. A lot of watch parties, right? And we've got to provide the service to get people to those. I think from a customer experience perspective, very similar to Taylor Swift, you're going to see us really activate the system and engage a lot of the roughly 1 million folks who are going to come to this region to watch the FIFA World Cup in person, right? And so how do we engage folks at our stations through music and art? That's one thing that I think has the potential to be quite a lasting legacy for us, is how we engage customers, how we convey information in multiple languages, how we convey wayfinding and signage and how to pay for your trip, right? Like, these are folks speaking, up to, I think it's like 200 languages coming to this region. How do we do that? How do we rethink how our system is used and imagine folks coming to our region and using our system? I think that has some real opportunity.
Excellent.
Sorry, just to add to that, the reason legacy question came up is because for me, is most of the time when the world visits a country or a city, for that matter, infrastructure becomes a huge reason for them to make a move or consider. Yeah. And that's why the legacy was like, what legacy they want to see or we want to show off, because we can use some economy here. Sure.
We want people to have a beautiful, amazing experience is what we want. And that's our goal, to provide that with great, frequent, fast service, making sure they're not stuck. It's funny, when you think about events or things that you've attended, you can think back to ones you've gone to. A lot of people remember like the drive there and the drive out. Like, oh, I was stuck in the parking garage for 45 minutes, right? A lot of time, it's that transportation piece that you remember maybe better or just as much as the event itself, right? We don't want that. We want people to have a great, seamless experience on our system, as well as having a great experience with the FIFA World Cup games. Yeah.
Making sure the air conditioning works.
Let's see what we can do. Yeah.
I was in Paris during the 38-degree heat wave.
How was that?
It wasn't good, Kevin.
The subways were spicy.
Welcome, you're up.
My name is Mokum. I'm a student at UBC, and my question for you is about BRT. A concern that I have and many of my peers have is that BRT won't be a stepping stone, but it'll be a forever ceiling. Yeah. So could you tell us what kind of ridership metrics or density requirements would trigger an upgrade to rail, or is it TransLink's position that the heart of our city will kind of be stuck at bus?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think it's a valid concern. Look, there are many systems that have graduated from a BRT or a rapid bus system to a rail, right? Like, that's something that happens. I think for our part, it's important to design a bus rapid transit system such that it doesn't preclude a future rail solution. So that's something that's top of mind for us. I don't sit here today with a ceiling, a number that we have to hit or that one must hit in order to sort of like trigger suddenly a rail expansion. I can tell you that once that King George BRT goes in, it will be one of the top routes in all of Metro Vancouver, and that our attention will quickly go to what else might be needed for that, and it might be that goes for a few years, and then we start having some discussions around rail. I think for our part, we don't see it as permanent, right? Like, there's lots of parts of this region that have started as buses or a rapid bus type of service that has become a SkyTrain or could become a light rail system or a SkyTrain system. So I don't sit here today with any notions that, once that goes in, it's here, till the end of time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Sarah Islami. I'm CFO at Shield Insurance. I have a question. You mentioned very rightly that transport is the engine for economic growth, and I'm very encouraged to see the increase in ridership. One question I have is SkyTrains or any of the hubs are a very important piece of the whole puzzle. When I look at, for example, commuting from Burnaby to downtown, many of those SkyTrain stations, there is a limit of, say, 3-hour parking. So for many people, this is a hub to drive to SkyTrain station and from there to go. Is parking any piece of the puzzle that you're considering in terms of accessibility to these hubs to enable broader access?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have, at a lot of our rail stations, we have very limited space. And I'll be honest, a lot of folks think that TransLink owns a lot of the real estate around the SkyTrain system. We do not. We actually own very, very little. The provincial government, if the minister was here, I'd point to him and ask him to take this question, right? But the province owns a lot of that land. And for our part, we operate some of those small parking facilities. I think, especially as it relates to the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain, something that we're looking forward to is what we call an area transportation plan or an area transit plan that we, later this year, will look to undertake to really rethink a lot of the bus routes in Surrey and in Langley's and in White Rock and how people are moving around, right? A lot of times people need a parking lot because there isn't a great transit solution to get them to the rail station. And so, look, we need to do a real rethinking of the bus routes in Surrey and how they connect up to a brand new Surrey-Langley SkyTrain. If we build it right, if we do it right, if we have the right levels of service, people they hopefully won't want to drive to a parking lot and they can have a nice, easy solution to get to the rail station. Yeah.
Welcome back.
All right, so here for my quick question. I know I saw the drawing that you guys had up for the station, for the shelters, for the BRT. Is that like a finalized design? Or I was curious that they're one on each side versus having one right in the middle. Because I think it probably use the same amount of real estate, right? I don't know if it would be more effective and maybe cut the cost down a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think.
I'm all about lowering my taxes. So.
Yeah, sure. I am too. We're on the same team. Look, I think we want to have a station that is substantive enough to give a really safe, solid rider experience. We're also not trying to blow the bank on this one, and we want it to be something that's affordable. You've heard me say that, BRT can be delivered for a fraction of the cost of SkyTrain. Well, if those stations are these huge blown up things, that's not going to be the case, right? So at the same time, we want our riders to have a great station-like experience along the BRT. So that's a bit of a long-winded way of saying no, those designs aren't final. And in fact, that's one reason why we're wanting to do this public engagement, is to hear from riders. What are they looking for at stations? What kind of safety features or real-time information are they looking for? What kind of designs do they want to see? It's really funny, when we've done engagements before, a lot of times folks just want like a roof over their head. They're like, it rains a lot, and we just want a bus shelter. We just want a roof over our heads. Real-time information is great. Sure, we're going to do that. But, we want to hear from riders as part of that public engagement, what they want to see in those BRT stations.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love the BRT idea.
Great.
I voted against the LRT. I thought it was just going to be, like I've seen in other cities, it's not that great. But BRT is a great idea. Way more cost-effective, so, all pro for it. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Jamie.
James Stewart, law firm Hamilton Duncan. So you presented a very cheery, upbeat view of the world, and I'm sure the sun will shine every day, but I'm kind of curious to hear what you think of what the challenges are and the risks that you see for your intended future that keep you awake at night.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to talk about that. That's what my therapist wife is for. So let's see. Maybe I'll talk about two pieces. One project kind of related, one maybe more kind of existential. So on the project side, our rail expansion program, with the Broadway subway project and the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain coming in, that's a nearly 30% expansion in SkyTrain service. A lot of what we're using today to run SkyTrain is the original systems from 1986. I'll just stop there. A lot of the work that we have to do is upgrading all of these systems to operate a SkyTrain out to Langley, to operate that Broadway subway extension of the Millennium Line. And so to do so organizationally is quite a lift. And so over the next few years, SkyTrain's hiring another roughly 400 or 500 people that will be needed. We're moving to multiple maintenance facilities, to a new operations control center. It is substantial, the lift, the organizational push needed and momentum needed to take on that rail expansion. I think my second answer to your question is more around funding. I talked a good bit about the funding. We rely primarily on fuel tax revenue, on fares, and on property taxes. And our investment plan, look, we cut our funding deficit in half. It's great. There's a lot more work to do, as I've noted, and that keeps us fully funded through the end of 2027. We are very much looking at, part of that investment plan included an agreement with the provincial government to introduce a new revenue source for TransLink in 2027. And so we are working with the provincial government on that. I think there's some good progress being made. I guess what I'd say is that, for our part, in order to advance things like BRT, in order to continue to roll out the bus service increases that we know we need, stability of funding is really, really important. How do you run a business knowing that you run out of funds in just a couple of years? Would you be making investments to increase service, right? Like, your product is needed, but all around the region, people are begging for it, but at the same time, you run out of funding. I mean, we just got into 2026. It's, less than 24 months now, right? So what kind of business investments do we make? This is important. Transit moves this region. Transportation investments are so important to this region. We've got some tough decisions ahead of us, and our real hope is that, we land a sustainable funding model that really solves this funding gap for good and allows us to continue with a real stable funding source.
Okay, our last question to the microphone, unless someone runs up there right now. No? Okay.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Nicole Tate. I'm with Brella Community Services. We're a 55-plus nonprofit. And one word I haven't heard mentioned today is seniors. And I'm wondering what TransLink's plan is with our really rapidly aging populations, the coming gray wave. How are you going to make sure that this service is accessible, safe, and available for our seniors?
Yeah, that's a great question. On our, let's see. So I think from an accessibility perspective across SkyTrain, we are doing some great work, say replacing elevators. We're doing work on the Expo line to make elevators better for folks. We have the original Expo line elevators from 1986 that all need to be replaced, right? So that all's got to get done. So there's some basic things that we need to do to upgrade our system to make it more reliable and more accessible for folks. I'll talk about HandyDart for a second because HandyDart is something that we've focused on a lot. We just announced a couple of weeks ago extended service for HandyDart. Up until a couple weeks ago, we had service that ended at midnight for folks. We've extended that to 2 a.m. We have a goal of making that a 24-hour service for folks. We've also made a big investment and recently had an announcement about software. Right now you can get an Uber, you can get a Lyft, you can see your bus on your phone. You can't do the same with HandyDart. And those riders, those seniors, individuals with disabilities that take HandyDart, they deserve that too. And so we want to make that software available so that they can book a trip with an app, they can see their ride coming, they know who's going to come. We want to make a lot of big investments in HandyDart. We've recently approved a customer-first plan that identifies 19 HandyDart initiatives that we'd like to implement that are all about improving accessibility, especially as we see an aging population.
Thank you for that, Kevin. We have a lot of seniors support organizations in White Rock and Surrey, and I'm sure they'd be happy to be a part of a conversation around that.
Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about Fraser Highway and, you know, the mayhem that is out there. Excuse me. I've spoken with the mayor about it too. And, you know, with progress comes, you know, some disruptions that we have to deal with. But of course, that doesn't help when you're in the car and you're like, oh no. So when you look at all of this progress that is happening, how can businesses and the community engage with TransLink to ensure that transit investments don't hinder or impact their business operations? What is the best way for them to make sure that they're telling you what's happening on the ground for them?
Sure. So I think whether it's engaging through the Surrey White Rock Board of Trade and engaging with you and what you're hearing from businesses is great for us to hear. Of course, you know, we're happy to engage with, you know, literally every business, any business in this room that wants to have a discussion. You know, I have found there's been so many useful discussions with individuals, especially around, you know, employee shift times, right? There's a lot of folks, a lot of industrial areas that we know need service, and meeting those shift times. Most of those folks aren't working a traditional 9 to 5, they're working various shifts, and so a lot of times I find that our service isn't necessarily aligned to that, and it's important that we have those conversations, that we get that data, that we get that information so that we can make those changes. So I think, you know, whether it's businesses that want to reach out directly to us to help us understand their needs, their constraints, you know, what's going to work best for them, or we hear it through the board. Either way is great with us. We want to be here. We want to be your partner.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything you'd like to close with? Any last words? I can ask some other crazy questions.
No, it's fine. No, I mean, I'll just say, look, Surrey and White Rock have been on our radar for quite some time, and we've made, I'd like to say, a lot of progress over the past few years. We've increased service. We've really, really focused on increasing service and making the investments that we know that are necessary. At the same time, I also want to reflect there's a lot more that needs to be done. There's a lot more that needs to be done and investments that need to be made, and just know that we're here as your dedicated partner to work with you on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Kevin, for
Thank
your
you.
time. That was great. It's my pleasure to thank our sponsors once again, and I'll just say their names, and at the end we'll do one big round of applause because I already tested you and your skills this morning, and you did great. Okay, we have the Civic Hotel and the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association as our community sponsors. Let's give a round of applause for them. And we also have our pillar partners, Aspira Retirement Living, Cleveland Doan LLP, Focus College, Oceana Park, TBMS Warehousing, Western Community College, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. Thank you to our sponsors. And before you leave, I want to let you know which events we have coming up. On February 4th, we kick off the first ever Surrey cohort of the Trade Accelerator Program. Some of you have heard me go blue in the face saying, please diversify your trade portfolios. This is the program to do it, the TAP program. Please look it up. Please attend. February 6th is the Economic Forecast Lunch with BDC Chief Economist Pierre Clareau. I'm sure he has a crystal ball that will tell us everything that's coming. We've also introduced several upcoming training opportunities in partnership with KPU, ranging in topics from social media, business analytics, conflict resolution, and building strong teams. And some of them are eligible for funding, so I encourage you to take advantage of these. And one of our favorites, nominations are due for the Surrey and White Rock Women in Business Awards this Friday, January 16th. Every single one of you know an amazing woman, so please nominate her. And for more details, please go to our website. And everyone make it a great business day. Thanks for coming out. And thank you, Kevin.